RSA Solutions. I really appreciate your investment of your time, and hopefully it'll be a good investment. The goal here is to hear from estimating experts and gain some of their wisdom. Most of these guys have well over 10 years of experience in the industry and are very, very wise about doing business from an estimate all the way through. We want to get an understanding of how important the data is from the start, or when I say from the start, from the estimate and using it downstream. We want to learn how it can make sense to think in terms of winning business and generating usable data for project management and work order execution. We want to hear from the founder of Alliance Millsoft and learn about the strategy deployed as he has grown this technology over the past 20 years. It's Alliance Millsoft, in case you don't know, is a estimating organization that provides technology for people that are doing estimating in the AWI world. We also want to hear from Bob Aronson, who has many, many years of experience in the ERP world in multiple types of manufacturing scenarios, from airplanes all the way down to oil refineries. He's been involved. The bottom line is I think at one time he was managing Microsoft's efforts in ERP and had literally 500 sales reps working for him. So he has been around the block and has a lot of wisdom, and he's involved with Epicor right now. And so that'll be interesting to kind of tie all this together. We see a kind of a evolution of data management coming at us at a rather fast pace. We see it becoming more and more economical. And what the big boys have been doing for many years, now these smaller project management shops are deploying and getting into that. Let's go over our guest speakers. We've got Michael Bell from Allegheny Millwork, Ben Hadachek from Woodward, Dean Haffey from Cooper Enterprises, Joe DeLuna from Prospect Interiors, John Whittling, we talked about, Alliance Millsoft, and Bob Aronson from Epicor. We've kind of thrown some questions out for each speaker to focus on. Our first speaker is Michael Bell. Michael has 44 years experience in all aspects of the woodworking and construction industries. He was president of AWI in 2013 and worked on the AWI Standards Committee for 9 years. I believe he was involved in the first and second standards ever set up. He studied design under Buckminster Fuller at Southern University, and he participated in many educational seminars, including being the AWI Education Chairman. Okay, Mike, I believe you're on.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Appreciate
sure,
being invited to participate. Estimating has always been something that's been near and dear to my heart for the last almost 40 years now. And from the first time that I walked into an architectural millwork company and was intimidated by the senior estimators in there, and I asked the questions, how in the world do you guys figure this stuff? And so the older gentlemen, of which now I am one, but they told me, they said, stick around and we're going to teach you a few things. And so over the years, both from being in the shop and also being in the office, I've learned a lot about estimating. And one of the dynamics and kind of a dynamic tension that happens in estimating is that when we're estimating projects, particularly for architectural millwork, we're usually under a very short time frame to be able to do a complete takeoff and pricing out. And on top of that, our close rate, and typically for our company, is between 10 and 12%. So that means that 88 to 90% of the work we do in estimating gets thrown in the trash at the end of the day. So we have to be really careful about how much time we spend on the estimate. And when we talk about once we land a job, and we're fortunate enough to either miss the floor or miss the building or done something where we're the low bidders or we don't work in low bid marketplace. But in any case, once we're fortunate enough to get a job, then all ears perk, and we say we need to identify what the materials are and, of course, the labor, and get that job ready to be able to be processed through the office and through the plant. So the whole dynamics is how much time do you spend on your estimate, and how much of your estimate that you put together is usable information for when the job gets handed off. And that's been a dynamics over the years. So with the advent of the computer and the use of computers in terms of estimating, my personal belief is that we can generate some very good usable information to be able to be handed off for the process that goes forward in terms of the when you actually get a job. But on the same token, if we're throwing away 90% of the work that we're doing, I think we have to be careful about how detailed we get and how specific we get on those particular estimates. So it's almost like once we land a job, then is it worthwhile to do a lot finer tooth combing of the data and of the information to get it ready to become an actual project and to process. And so that's kind of the dynamic balance that we found ourselves at Allegheny Millwork, is that we have to try to rush through the estimate. We have to do a broader brushstroke, and then we actually, once we land the job, then we have to, in a sense, go into a pre-construction mode, take that information and revise it, and basically estimate the job all over again to put it in a format to where the information can be handed downstream. So I don't know that we've found the magic key yet to make all that stuff seamlessly flow. That's always been almost like the holy grail in architectural woodwork, is finding some software, finding some, that all ties together to be able to get it. But I think that there's no doubt that the estimate is the beginning of the story, because if you do a lousy job of takeoff and you wind up selling the job, then your project managers have a real challenge ahead when they see that you missed the whole second floor and you don't have any trim or credenzas or anything else that goes on the second floor. It's hard to make that up. If you actually get your takeoff done correctly and you have all of the different products, but you priced it a little bit off, let's say by 5%, then that's something that can be made up over the project, because there's going to be certain ones that you're going to be over 5%. But if you miss it altogether completely, it's really, really tough to make that up. So I've used Alliance Millsoft system over the years. I really like the program. Our company currently is not using Alliance Millsoft. They're using another program. But again, it's really, really important to start with a good takeoff and then be able to process the data going forward.
So the system that you use, Michael, you have two. Actually, it sounds like you have two systems. One to do a quick one that exposes in large quantities, and then if you win it, and 10% of the time you win it, then you run it through again in a more infinite way to get better data. Have I got that right?
I think so, yeah. We basically refine it into more detail. We'll take the scope items that we took off and we'll try to reorganize them, because, again, when you're estimating, you first of all, I don't think you see everything the way you need to, and you don't have the time, basically, to get yourself as far into the project as you need to group things together, separate things. The whole idea, again, with the estimating is to make sure you've got enough material and enough labor covered to be able to produce the product. But I know for a fact, that having been an estimator for a number of years, that I can't get as exact as now I'm working as a project manager. I've got to get really exact in project management. So yes, we go through, we don't use a different program particularly, but we have to go through and refine the descriptions of what we're doing. We break out the budgets in a more defined manner to be able to, certain things maybe we didn't put enough on this item, but too much on the other item. Maybe we consider this to be built in-house, but we're actually going to farm it out. So we have to change the budgets for each line item or scope item. And so we do that after we win the job.
Okay. Looking at these questions that we're trying to focus on, I think you got the first one covered. Does project management go quicker and smoother with accurate data from the estimates that you produce today?
Well, I don't think there's any question about that. The more accurate the information we get from estimating, the smoother project management goes. But I think it's very seldom that we see a completely smoothless job.
Yeah.
Or a smooth job.
I'm going to skip to this one. Michael, do you guys do cost accounting for your projects?
We do it on a bi-weekly basis for each project. We're basically going through and we're doing an analysis of where that particular line, every single line item on the job is, and then at the end we look it over to determine where are we in terms of the data that we use. It starts again with the estimate, but then in pre-con, when we actually take the job and do a thorough analysis and rebudget everything, that's the data that we use as the basis for the actuals.
Okay, and then after you get your actuals down, is there a time when you say, hey, listen, the next time we're going to adjust our estimating data so it'll accommodate the overages or underages that we took and learned from on the last project? Or do you?
Well, I wish I could tell you that the answer to that is yes, but I'm afraid to tell you that it's no. We don't go to that extent.
Okay. Okay. So after the estimating, are you guys using an ERP system or material management system, or how's that data?
Well, it gets re-entered in to a different system, a different ERP program that we have.
Okay, so you're manually entering it in?
Okay. Pretty much. I mean, it gets put into a spreadsheet, and then that spreadsheet imports it in.
Okay, I understand.
It's a clumsy process for us. It's not seamless.
And the same spreadsheet gets fed to your production people?
No, they actually there's a complete process in terms of material takeoff that gets done after a project is landed, and that information goes to production. So
okay. All right. Guys, if you have any questions, I understand. Talking to the attendees, if you have any questions, go ahead and get them in there. And for Michael, and we're going to move on to Joe. Let me get Joe.
Hello.
Okay. Joe, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you? Thank you.
Good. Thank you for joining us and helping us learn from you.
No problem. No problem.
Just to give you everybody who Joe DeLuna is, he runs Pro Spec Interiors on Long Island, New York. He's highly involved in estimating and technology in the company, having used many software systems in the industry. They have multiple production facilities, including sophisticated casework production and solid surface fabricating.
Okay. Well, I don't know whether that's actually accurate. I think I might have got mixed up with somebody else too, but it's fairly accurate. We only have one production facility, but
okay.
But we are, we do have, the CNC machinery, solid surface fabricating. So basically, I guess I'll start by going through your list the way you were going through it. And the first question about how important is estimating as the source of project material and labor needs. Well, as for us, obviously the estimate is always important. Material-wise, we don't use it for ordering material or figuring material. We use that through microvellum, with the way the job is put into that. But we do use it to obviously check our estimates and go back and forth. The labor needs, we definitely use it for the field installation end of it. Being in the New York market, labor costs, in the New York union market, labor costs run upwards over $100 an hour, so that's important to really keep an eye on that. Labor in the shop has always been an issue, trying to plan that and see how that works. I mean, we try to cost it, we try to keep track of it, but that's always a hard thing to do. Constantly working on trying to see how to organize that data, that part of the data. The material end is always easy enough. You know what material you buy for a job. You can put that against your estimate. At the end, we basically know how many man hours we spent in the shop. But trying to break it up into what we did for cutting and assembling and different things can be a little bit more difficult. Project management with accurate data. I mean, you have to have accurate data. I mean, an estimate in itself. I mean, that's your whole thing. I mean, basically, with Mike. I mean, I have to say I differ a little in the sense of we try and do as detailed estimates as we can. Most of our work is low bid, and we're all working on a lot lower margins than we used to. And you have to trust your bid. You have to know when to walk away, because if you don't, then you can end up losing. If you trust your estimate and someone comes in there lower than you and you have to walk away, you have to know that something's not right. And we all run against that, and you just don't want to chase something without knowing. So it's very important to have accurate estimates, so this way you can know pretty much where your costs are and where you should be and what your margins are. More time or less time creating quotation when developing using data. No, I think with the estimating from Alliance, we don't spend more time. I mean, I think we're able to create pretty complex data pretty easily, as long as it is put in correctly and the basis of your estimate is set up. The data there's more data than I can use usually, so that I don't spend more time using it that way. Cost accounting. I mean, cost accounting is, we do use the estimate. Obviously, we go back, like I said, we look at the materials, we look at the labor. We would definitely like to get more into that. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to, but we want to get more into tracking labor in the shop, because that's always your biggest if. Most anybody, I'm sure, can say we can estimate our material pretty close, but when it comes to your labor, that's always your plus or minus. So if you can track that down and use data from a decent amount of time to look back and see, that would really help to keep your estimates accurate. The Alliance Millsoft system, I feel it's very accurate. I mean, the material obviously is right on, as long as you're putting your everything in right. The labor, again, is right, as long as what you're putting, you're giving it your basis to work from. So I have no problem. I think it's works well. Automation. Data flow. We don't really do too much automation as far as data flow, ERP. We kind of separate the project management of the job from the fabrication of the job, in the sense of we track a job as far as submittals, things like that, shop drawings, separately from the fabrication in the shop. They're really two different things. So they kind of take a job from the shop drawings and they handle that, whereas we take the project management end of it and track all that information, change orders, shop drawings, like I said, submittals, all that stuff is kind of handled separate from the fabrication of the job. Really two separate things there.
Okay.
And again, I guess, our estimating system does not really feed in any automated way. Agreeing with Mike, I mean, we all generate much more estimating data than we ever use, because we don't really close that much as we, estimate. So, to try and automate that sometimes, and even having it's really two separate things. You don't want to try and take your estimating system and turn it into an accounting system, because they're really looked at two different ways. I mean, you can take data out of it, but I don't know how automated that could really be.
Okay. Okay, Joe, I really appreciate your time. I'd like to talk to you about some other stuff
Sure.
at a later point.
No problem.
Some stuff that I could tell you about. Let's go ahead. And by the way, if you have any questions for Joe, just go ahead and enter them in there, and we'll get those addressed. Okay, Ben. Ben's background is he's a lead estimator for Woodward Millwork Group, a division of Woodward Design and Build in New Orleans. Ben has been in the woodworking field for over 20 years. He started off with Woodward in 2014 as an architectural millwork fabricator, and in 2016 became the lead estimator. Let me make sure Ben's on. Okay, Ben.
Hey.
How you doing? Good.
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, so first of all, thank you guys for having me on here. I really appreciate the opportunity. And I don't know that I have a crazy lot to offer, but I will do my best.
Great.
So how important is it for our organization to use estimating as a source for project material and labor needs? I mean, I would say it's crucial. I think I would echo both Mike and Joe that estimating is where it starts, and I think it's just the first key to a successful business. And so, it's been hugely important to us. So kind of our background, we're part of Woodward Design Build, which is a large general contractor in the New Orleans area. And just as the name implies, we do a lot of design build projects. And so us being the millwork division of that, I spend probably 50% of my time just kind of helping them develop budgets for projects that they're working on in the design build project. And I would say probably the other 50% of my time is spent on competitive bidding with outside contractors as well as with Woodward. So we do a little bit of both. So both design build negotiated projects as well as competitive bidding. And for both of those types of pricing, the estimate is the first start. So for example, in the design build projects, they may send a set of plans, and all it is a set of floor plans. So I have to come up with, what I think cabinets are going to be, from the very beginning, ground up kind of pricing. And then as the project gets more detailed out, there's usually maybe 10 different times where I have to go back and kind of revise the pricing, update the pricing to match the details that they're coming out with. And so the estimate from the very beginning is crucial. And so we use Alliance Millsoft throughout for both negotiated as well as competitive bidding. It's the only estimating software that we use right now. And so we, from the very beginning, when it's just budgetary stage to completion, execution, we use Alliance Millsoft, and it's been crucial. And then on the other end, for competitive bidding, I would echo like what Mike was saying, that just usually have a very short time frame, a couple of days to look at a project and come up with a price. And like Joe was saying, we try and be as accurate as possible with all of our proposals, with all of our prices. We try and be as accurate as possible, within reason with what we can do with the time that we have. And so I think it's really important with the estimating software to be able to produce proposals quickly and accurately. Quickly so that we can get out as many as possible. Because like Mike was saying, we're about the same. We usually get about 10 to 12% of the bids that we bid on. Actually, we are awarded. So, so for, we have to price 10 projects before we actually get awarded one. So it's important to be able to produce estimates quickly in a short time. And AMS has certainly allowed us to do that. We've taken the data that we had from the past, jobs that we've done, and put it into the software when we first got it. So we have a good base. We have a good base master estimate set up to where I can go in and go through a takeoff rather quickly, put everything in, and then depending on how much time I have is how much time I can spend tweaking it, or if I just need to bump it up and shoot the price off. We're able to do either of those with the AMS. So it's been super helpful, and it's really helped us turn our company around as we start to kind of delve into the more competitive market. So yeah, that's, I just can't stress how important a good estimating software is for our company. And as far as like project management, so right now we're still in the process of integrating our estimates into the project management process. In the past, it's always been two completely separate entities. Before we had AMS, we were just using Excel spreadsheets, and so the project manager just kind of basically started from scratch once we got a job. They would just start from scratch and just go from there. But since we've got the AMS, we've been trying to integrate more and more into our project managing process, the estimate. So when we are awarded a project, I'll go through and kind of clean it up, because it's usually a mess after bid day. Clean it up, maybe get some, actual price quotes if I had some plugs in there. Kind of clean it up, and then we'll have a handoff meeting. And I usually print out a material schedule, labor schedule, all the different reports that we can do through AMS in our handoff meeting. And then also we do a lot of cost accounting, being that we're with Woodward Design Build. We have a ton of cost accounting that we have to do throughout the course of the project. So they're not able to fully integrate cost accounting based off our estimates, but there's a lot of information that I'm able to kind of pull out for them and put into Excel spreadsheets that they can use for their cost accounting. And so we're working towards integration there on the cost accounting side of things. And yeah, so I would say as far as spending more or less time creating a quote, yeah, again, I think it's really sped up our quote process and allowed us to be more confident. If we do have to throw together an estimate really quickly, we can be more confident that our baseline times and markups are pretty good, and we can spend as much time as possible. Yeah, and then as far as the accuracy, yeah, we haven't had any trouble with Alliance Millsoft not being accurate. It's usually my errors, if I miss something, or if, I didn't plug in a material price correctly, or like Mike was saying, if I missed the whole floor. So that's where the inaccuracy is right now, is in the estimating process. So yeah, what type of automation do we deploy? So we don't have any separate ERP systems. Right now, that's all manually, I would say. We don't have any particular software for that. So we've kind of been basing it off of estimates. Again, I'll copy a lot of the material reports, labor reports, into spreadsheets so that our fabrication manager can kind of go through that. And what we've actually been doing is they will take the time that I've figured in the estimates. So we've broken it up into probably 20 different labor categories. We got one for countertops, one for cabinets, different ones for install. And so out in the shop and in the field, they keep track of those hours. So what we've done is we've actually put a big dry erase board out in the shop. And when we have a project that's on the floor in the shop, our fabrication manager goes out there and I'll actually write down the time. You guys have 200 hours for cabinets. You have 100 hours for countertops. And that's kind of a way that the guys in the shop can see, hey, we're running out of time here. We've got to speed things up. Or, so it helps keep them accountable and keep them aware of the project. And then the guys out in the shop and in the field, actually have been keeping track of their hours. So they log their hours on a daily basis, what they were working on, how long they were working on it for. And we're kind of just starting to get some of that feedback from some of those jobs that we've completed. I've kind of had to hound our fabrication manager and division manager to kind of get some information, like, hey, I want some feedback, on these jobs that we've completed. Can we go through and see, okay, we were short here, and kind of pinpoint the errors. Was it we didn't figure enough time? Were we short on materials? And then I've been taking some of that information and feeding it back into the AMS and just tweaking things, just to kind of get it closer to more accurate. So we've kind of got a closed loop. We're working on that. It's still definitely a work in progress. There's a lot more we could do, but just due to time constraints, we're not able to do everything that we should be or could be doing. So, yeah, does that all make sense?
Yes, it does. Really appreciate your comments and thoughts and participation. Again, if you have any questions for Ben, go ahead and type them in. I am seeing the questions accrue now, and we're going to try to get to those as we get through the presentations. Ben, I really appreciate your time, and it's time to move on. 1 second, let me get the next slide up. To Dean. Dean, how are you today? Oh, no, he may not be. Let me get him.
Ask me to do this.
There you go, Dean. I got it. Just to give you a little background on Dean ran his own company for 2 decades and now works in sales for Cooper Enterprises, a producer of casework for other architectural millwork companies. Cooper Enterprises has numerous CNC work centers and has invested heavily in technology. They are a sight to behold when you see what they're doing. But anyway, Dean, welcome to the party here, and anxious to hear what you have to say.
I just want to thank John for asking me to do this, and I feel honored to be on the board or this with all these guys, with Mike and you and everyone else. But yeah, I'm kind of spoiled. I've been using Alliance Millsoft, I think, since 1996. And it's really the only estimating software that I've ever used. I have used spreadsheets, but I don't get the information from them that I get from that program. And Cooper has, we make a lot of different products, and we basically use Millsoft for our Millsoft for our casework only. We run predominantly a lot of components and one-of-a-kind store fixtures for other companies where we may use a spreadsheet to quote those. But about 15 to 20% of our business is casework. When we get a casework job, it's usually because someone's decided they can't fit it into their schedule, and they send it to us. And to back up, we are a contract manufacturer, panel processing company that only does work for other wood shops. We depend on that material report heavily on our casework. The first thing we do when we get a job is use the Millsoft material report and order material for that job. Usually within the week, someone's run that through Microvellum, and we can use that material report to compare what we've ordered, and if we need to order additional material, we can do that then. But we like to get stuff in-house so we have it and can get started right away. We use the labor report. We kind of streamlined ours a little bit. We only use 6 or 7 of the categories that are in there. And we use those for our scheduling. We have a person that spends his full time just scheduling projects through our plant. he will update that on a, daily basis, or he's constantly just in there tweaking that schedule. But he uses the labor from Millsoft to schedule the routers and the edge banders and all that. Then our project manager uses it to see what our backlog in cabinetry is. So we can keep that up to date. The sales team gets updated a couple times a week with what our backlog is and what we can handle. As far as project managing, using the Millsoft software, they use it to double check the scope of work from the purchase order or the shop drawings we get. Our engineers use it. They can compare what we quoted, because Millsoft does give you a very detailed scope of work. They can compare what we quoted with what's on the customer shop drawings. We can use it for billing. As we ship, we can itemize the shipping summary with what Millsoft has and give our customer an exact price of what we're shipping that week or that day. Spending more time creating a quote, I don't think we do. If we do, we're getting a pretty accurate quote. I do know a lot of people that just want to quote by lineal foot. I've never been a fan of that. I like to get as detailed of a quote as I can. I want to know how much material I've got and all that. The other thing is, being a job shop, I'm not just building Cooper's cabinets all the time. So I'm building other people's cabinets, and we have to switch our materials, and sometimes we have to tweak the labor to accommodate whatever the customer's asking for. Do we do cost accounting on projects? That's a great question. I think our cost accounting is either during or at the end of a job. We look at how much material and labor we had in it, see if we made money or not. But I don't know that anybody has time to sit down and break it down into all the different items the way we quote it. I've been trying to get them to do that, but I know we're just all backed up, and no one has time to really look at it hard. And although we did it one time, the last few years we haven't had a chance to do that. So I've really been trying to get people to run a job and break it down by operation, and then go back to Millsoft and tweak those numbers. But for right now, it's working. Evidently, we're pretty close, so we're doing okay. How accurate would I say Alliance Millsoft is for us? I'd say it's pretty accurate. Unless we screw up along the line, and occasionally we do, we seem to hit our margins pretty good. Like I said earlier, the material takeoff is very accurate. As long as I put in the right numbers, we get good stuff back. And I think that's true with any of these softwares. They're only as good as what we put into them. What automation is deployed to process projects in terms of data flow, ERP, material management? I'm not the best person to be asking that question. I know we do use it, but because I don't work in the plant and don't work on our ERP system, I'm not sure exactly how they're using it for data flow and material management, but they do use it. I do know that. I'm just I'm not experienced at that part of the process.
Okay.
They keep me away from there. I do some estimating, off-site. So, that way I'm able to share all the information I put into Millsoft, but I don't see what they do with it when they get it. Does our estimating system feed planning and production in an automated way? No, it doesn't. our people have to enter everything manually. I know our estimators, once they sell a job, whether it's casework or a component store fixture type project, they have to create routings manually and feed all that information to our engineering team so they know how to process it through the plant.
Okay.
And I think that is something that Cooper is looking into, is trying to automate that process. So,
Okay.
that's about all I have. Yeah.
Dean, I really appreciate you and your comments. And gosh, it's been, 10 years since we've talked last?
Probably. Yeah.
I mean, so at any rate, again, if you have any questions for Dean, just go ahead and type them in there, and we'll move on. Thanks again, Dean.
You're welcome.
Okay, John, just to give you a little bit of background with John Whittling, he's the founder and owner of Alliance Millsoft. He's been doing this for a long time. I knew John back when I had hair, 20 years ago. In fact, he had hair too. But anyway, John, what do you want to cover? I didn't put anything down, just about your background, history, and your strategy for what you're doing with your technology. Hold on, let me open it up for you, John. Okay.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Roger. I appreciate you putting together this seminar and everything. And really, I guess what I would add to this conversation is more about our specific product and the, let's say, philosophy of the way we view estimating within the field of architectural millwork and commercial casework. We try to get bids down to a cost basis, meaning accurate materials, accurate labor, and other costs that may be involved in a project, like bonding and QCP fees and whatever it is. So we try to have it set up so that automatically a client can see where their cost basis is on a project and what makes up that cost basis. And then what they want to sell a price for a project for is, of course, a question of policy. It's not really a function of the cost of the job. So what we're trying to do is produce two sets of numbers, the cost basis numbers and the, of course, sell basis numbers. And behind all of that information, we're trying to automate that process as much as we possibly can. So in Alliance, when you take off cabinets or countertops or paneling or molding or any of those kinds of things, you're getting a material and labor breakdown for those items. And, of course, that gets you your cost basis, and that gets you the information that essentially becomes goalposts for how you're going to produce that project profitably. And we've really, ever since we came out with this second generation system, which has very detailed material calculations and labor types and all of that kind of thing in it, the whole idea has always been to feed an ERP type system. So now I view this as a more exciting thing that's coming into the industry. Obviously, various companies have had ERP systems in the past. It's been really expensive to implement them and set them up because they've had to customize so many aspects of an ERP system. We're very fortunate that Creative Technologies, the developer or applications developer for Epicor, has chosen us to be the front end or the estimating end of their upcoming ERP package. I would like to think that one of the reasons that happened is because of all the data that we automatically produce in estimating at the pricing aspect of a project, in order that that data becomes accurate one way or the other, because it's the data that you sold the job on. And yes, you can miss this or that or the other thing, but we're trying to automate the estimating processes to the point where estimators don't have to go down the road of chasing down costs and trying to add fudge factors to some kind of lineal foot or averaged out price for something. So if a customer has to switch from, let's say, your normal materials to lead-based materials or something like that, they can easily do it in Alliance and depend upon the outcomes of it and use that with confidence to quote those jobs. So that's the goals that we've been working on, I guess, since day one. But day one was a long time ago. So the systems that we have today are far different from where we originally started.
Thanks a lot, John. I appreciate your insight, and the industry definitely appreciates what you've done for it. Guys, if you have any questions for John, just when you write the question down, put John in front of it so we'll know how to direct that question. Again, John, thanks for your input, and I appreciate you helping me get this all set up.
Well, thank you, Roger.
You bet. I just recently, RSA Solutions and Creative formed a partnership with, and what I've learned about Creative is that, I mean, Epicor is $1 billion corporation, one of the largest software companies in the world. And they I equate it to something like, okay, it's like Autodesk, you know, I mean, you have these vertical market developers that like a Microvellum or a WoodCAD CAM that really do focus in on one industry. Well, as it turns out, the founder of Creative is a woodworker, and he loves and has a passion for woodworking. And he has been searching for a path to serve the woodworkers in the United States. And RSA is pretty familiar with the machine tools and the software that drives the machine tools, and we do understand MES rather well. And or MES is Manufacturing Executable Systems. And we decided, along with John Whittling's blessings, we decided we're going to work together. In addition to that, so I got to meet Bob Aronson, and Bob has a huge background in MRP. So hold on, I'm getting a little bit too much noise here. The bottom line is that I'm really excited to introduce Bob not only to you guys, but also to the woodworking industry in whole. He's been in the largest, most sophisticated manufacturers in the world. There isn't going to be any surprises that he sees. But let's face it, our goal is to serve an industry that can't afford a complex 3-year integration for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. We need to come up with a solution that's affordable and doable in a fast, short period of time. And the nice thing about it is every discussion I have with this, I get the impression that, you know what, Creative gets it. And just so you know, they're the #1 integrator in the world for Epicor. Their failure rate is minuscule compared to the industry. They take a great deal of pride and work very hard to make sure that success follows the transaction. So, Bob, are you there?
I am. Thank you for that introduction.
Sure. The floor is yours, sir.
Well, I thank everyone, John and everyone. Thanks for all your great words on estimating and the importance of data and turning that data into information. I think it's safe to say that, you know, the reason that we look at doing a good job in estimating and then all the way through the entire woodworking process, because most companies are for profit. You want to make money. And if you don't code it right, it's going to be awful difficult to make money on the back end. What's equally as important as getting the data right is making sure that you're managing, collecting, and using the data. I'll never forget, I was in a manufacturer, a fabricator one time, and they said, look, we don't need what you have. Our problem is we need more assemblers. And they looked out and they said, see, we've got all this stuff piled up, and we need more assemblers. They're just not keeping up. And you really peel that onion back, and the issue wasn't assembler. The issue was they didn't have the right raw material at the right time for the machines to be fully utilized. So when the raw material came in, they did the cutting, all the assembly got bottlenecked. If they had a good system, if they let technology work for them, they would have been able to streamline their operation. They would have been able to order correctly. They would have been able to receive correctly. They would have been able to configure, build, and get everything working the way it should. And that's what technology can do. The technology we're really referring to is ERP technology, Enterprise Resource Planning. It's really collecting all of the information from all of the systems and getting it to work for you. Someone made the comment that most ERP systems are very difficult, very expensive, very complex to not only buy but implement and support and maintain. So we've decided, because of our roots, because of our approach to being a vertical expert as opposed to being a generalist, we've actually decided to take the woodworking industry and solve the biggest challenge that they have, which is getting the data from all of these systems into an ERP platform that's scalable, flexible, easy to use, maintain, and specifically designed with the industry in mind, not just for the industry. A lot of companies out there are trying to build stuff for an industry, but they don't have the power of, we've got Epicor on our side. They're investing hundreds of millions of dollars in research and development to make sure that the platform is scalable and it continues to evolve as technology evolves, and it becomes lower cost and more powerful every single day, which is what the industry needs. We've been very selective on who we work with. We've selected Alliance Millsoft because of their ability to do a great job in collecting accurate information on the takeoff process and estimating. We've partnered with Epicor for an ERP platform. As John mentioned, they're a billion-dollar software company. Really what makes the Epicor platform unique and special specifically for woodworkers and fabricators and mill companies, a manufacturing ERP product, and they are built with projects in mind. So as you're going through a project, which could be a hospital, a hotel, an office, a med building, whatever it might be, and you're dealing with the main project, dealing with a floor, a room, or a particular area, Epicor treats all those as a project and work structure inside that project, and it's ideal for a woodworking manufacturer. So the combination of the Epicor platform with the Alliance Millsoft on the front end, we've also partnered with CAD systems to get the engineering right. We've partnered with production and production coach and nesting applications to make sure we get the back end and cutting operation right. And then Epicor is that main data repository collecting all that information. We've got a business intelligence and analytics and machine learning engine that helps make sure that we're making correct decisions when those decisions are needed with the correct amount of information. And the whole system is available to be run in the cloud or on-prem. It's a customer's choice, same technology. And it really just depends on which level of technology and which direction they want to go in the business. So we could spend hours, days talking about Epicor, ERP, and capabilities. As Roger has been saying, go ahead and submit your questions. I look forward to working with each and every one of you, answering your questions, and showcasing how this overall ERP platform for the woodworking furniture industry can work specifically for you. So I'll turn it back to you, Roger.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, just write in the questions. I'm going to switch. So now we're down to the questions, and I've got one here directed to me. Roger Shaw, are you changing software paths? What about Production Coach? What about on screen? No, I'm not changing production paths. I love Production Coach, and it's the only product out there that can do what it can do, and it can communicate with the major players for engineering, and its integration is fast, and its savings is huge. However, it does not handle management of materials. So that was my hole, and I started figuring out how can I fix that. And so I ended up, actually one of my reps said, hey, you know what? There's this company called Creative that does commerce with Epicor. And I actually started looking around at a lot of different ERP systems because I wanted to have a solution that also included accounting and CRM. And so I kind of have the, what it amounts to is we're going to be working with Creative with Epicor to fill in those holes that I don't have that our industry is just now growing into. It used to be Epicor was just not affordable by 90% of the businesses, but now that's changed. So, and then in talking to my clients that we've sold Production Coach to, they are searching hard to solve a lot of problems in their front office. I mean, the bottom line is that this is all about solving problems so you can make more money. And, I talked to some major AWI players, and they're saying, hey, we have the machining. We can make a massive amount of parts. That's not our issue anymore. And now that you've got Production Coach, I can manage those parts, and I can manage my installations off premise. My problem is I've got to make sure all the materials are here, and I've got to make sure that I've got the capacity, and I need some sophisticated accounting that, I'm paying to manually to keep my books up. I'd like to have this be subliminal transactions into my general ledger. And these are holes that in costs that really add up. So no, I'm not changing paths at all. We still promote Wood CAD/CAM, which is a phenomenal engineering product from Germany. That's based on an SQL database, and yes, that's compatible with ERP, but I'm not with Creative or I'm not limited though to that one particular engineering product. What we like to do is we like to walk into a factory and just see what they're already doing and see if we can complement what they're doing as opposed to replacing what they have. In some cases, they want to replace what they have, but in many cases, we can take what they're already using and grow from there. So, but then there's some strategy changes too, and one of the strategy changes is I don't know what the percentage is of people that just use a spreadsheet to come up with an estimate, make the bid, and if they win the bid, they're starting from scratch again. And it's a larger group of people than should be doing that. And so connecting those islands up to the main flow of data that's RSA's goal. That's our mentality. So that's the answer to that question. Here's one that haven't had a chance to look at your software videos, but is there a scheduling aspect to it? Yeah, there's scheduling aspects to both Production Coach and in Epicor's. So we can show that to you. Doris wrote the question. I'll have someone get in touch with you and show you how the scheduling does work. And we look at it as a system from estimating all the way down to the general ledger. That's what the industry players need. And there isn't one company that's the same as the other company. There's no twins in this business. There's absolutely no identical twins. And so our software has to fit the client that's deploying it. So we think in terms of where's that company at, and what do we do with the technology that we have to wrap it around that particular company and make it fit like a glove. Let's see, John, this one's for you. Do you have an on-screen takeoff module? Let me turn you on, John. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Roger. On-screen takeoff really has not been able to share with us any of the APIs for their program so that we can develop a module for on-screen takeoff. We would like to do that, and we've been talking to them about doing it. I don't know if you're aware of it. I imagine you are, Roger, but on-screen takeoff is also owned now by the same company that owns PlanSwift. So both of those programs are really in the same umbrella company, and that's one of the differences between PlanSwift and on-screen takeoff. Was PlanSwift does have a robust developer back-end, and we do have a plugin for that. However, it's really pretty clean to go from on-screen takeoff on one monitor to Alliance for the actual takeoff and pricing of the project on another monitor. We have a lot of clients that do that, and of course we have a lot of clients that use PlanSwift as well because they like the module that we create for that. There's no exporting or importing of data required. It drops directly into our estimate files that way, and so it's pretty clean. But I will say that we have a number of people that use on-screen takeoff just in a multi-monitor format, and it works pretty well for them.
Okay, thanks, John. The next question is, John, this is for you too. What is your software driving engine? Is it Excel?
No, it is not Excel. We have written 2 programs in Excel, actually, during the course of the company's history. And we found a better tool than that. It's a spreadsheet engine from Borland called Quattro Pro. And I know it might sound a little funny, but when we were doing development work with Excel, whenever we'd get into really large estimates, we had a lot of crashing problems, a lot of data loss issues. If you don't know the technology, you think Excel, man, that's got to be the best spreadsheet that's out there. But point of fact is Excel is actually some of the oldest spreadsheet technology out there. And they don't really do things like true 3D architecture or object-oriented programming that we can use in association with Excel. And so that really created a barrier for us, mainly because we do so much calculations. Everything that happens in Alliance stays dynamic. And what that means is that if you were to go in and change a material cost or a labor rate or a labor process for how long it takes to do something or anything like that, in Alliance, it automatically rolls over throughout the job and redoes everything. In Excel, it's very difficult to do that. And that is where we run into issues. If you can stay on a single sheet in Excel, which really limits your abilities, but if you could do that, the Excel would be better about that. And of course, that's what most people use spreadsheets for, especially in Excel. It's almost become like a data storage container rather than doing all that much in the way of calculations. So that's why whenever our very first system was in Excel, actually, now that I think about it. And then we developed another system in Excel and ran into all of these calculation issues that we were having and instabilities as well. So in between there, we had used the Quattro Pro, which is a true 3D spreadsheet environment with object-oriented programming, which allows us to do a lot with it internally, and that speeds up your calculations. So there's a lot of things about the Corel Quattro calc engine that is more beneficial than Excel at that point. And so that those kinds of things end up making a difference when you've got, let's say, a job that has, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 line items and something like that. So you're talking about really big files in terms of what you would normally consider for a spreadsheet file. Was that a helpful answer?
Yeah, they're not on the mic. So it certainly was. Let me get to the next question. This is for Mike. What estimating software, you had mentioned that you're not using Alliance Millsoft right now. What estimating software is your company using currently? Are you there, Mike?
He may have left the presentation. I could answer some of that if you'd like me to.
Yeah, if you know what he's using, tell him.
Sure. So Allegheny Millwork has licenses for a wide variety of software, and they leave it up to the estimators to decide what they want to use. So it's a little bit of an unusual environment in that respect, and it kind of shows you how little of the estimating data actually rolls into project management in an automated kind of way. They do have a license for Alliance, but their lead estimator likes to use a program called Takeoff out of Canada.
Oh, I know them, yeah.
They built the libraries and all that kind of stuff in there, and so that is the other package that they use. They have used Alliance, and I don't know, when a new estimator rolls in there, they may use Alliance again. And certainly if we can give them more reasons to use Alliance, as in being able to seamlessly connect with ERP and project management and scheduling, which is a huge thing, then they may come back on board with Alliance because they already have the licenses for it.
Yeah. Okay, this question's for Ben. What do you use for cost accounting software?
Hey, I'm not really very involved in the cost accounting process. I think actually most of it's done just manually in Excel. But
Okay.
I could be wrong about that.
Okay. There's a couple other questions there that I don't know who to direct them to. One of them is, do you purchase material per job or pull from stock? And I'm not sure if that's that may be Dean's question, because they're doing so much there. I'm gonna let Dean answer that one. Dean, you there?
I am. Yeah, we do stock a lot of the common materials, white melamines, 11/16 particle boards, things like that. A lot of plywoods that get used on a regular basis. Many of the plastic laminates, veneers, specialty products do get ordered on a per job basis. Anything that's FSC, of course, has to be per job.
Okay. All right. Well, that covers the questions for now. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to write them in and send them in, and we'll get them answered. Panelists, we really appreciate your wisdom and your participation. And attendees, we really appreciate your interest. And if there's any way we can help, please let us know. Thank you very much. Have a great day.